What's going on, guys? Welcome to a brand new opposition preview video. Today I'm joined by Dave from the Talking Wolves channel to look ahead to our game against Wolves in the Premier League on Friday night. Dave, thank you for joining me. It's been an interesting start to the season for both of us. We're currently level on points, only goal differences separating us. But how would you say the mood is around the club going into this game?
With the fan base at the moment, it's a bit of an interesting one. I don't think anyone is too convinced with how we've started the season. The results have been okay. Results could have been a lot better, to be fair, but it's the performances that are disappointing fans at the moment. We haven't really got going. Even the games that we've won, especially the games against who was it recently, against Fulham and Leeds, the performances weren't fantastic. In our most recent game against Newcastle as well, where we drew 1-1, a game we dominated for 90 minutes, it feels like a loss. So it's just one of those. On paper, the results are okay, but the performances are concerning fans a little bit at the moment.
You know what's funny? It's the same thing I feel like it's happening with Palace. We just beat Fulham as well, but the manner that we beat them, we were just sitting back, allowing Fulham to have so much of the ball. But oddly enough, we managed to get a result. But looking at the league table so far this season, you're looking at the clubs like Villa, who are third, Leicester, who are in the top four as well, and Everton. From a Wolves perspective, I know you guys have high expectations because you've got the players to perform well. Do you think there's an opportunity for you guys to go and push on this season and aim for that top four finish, even though it's early on in the season? But they are, the big clubs aren't really there so far.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. You look at the table so far, and there was a couple of games already that Wolves have dropped points in. Newcastle game, even the game against West Ham. I know they smashed us, but on paper, that's the sort of game that Wolves should be getting something out of.
Hmm.
I think it's so tight at the moment in the league. My only concern is that yes, the top teams have started to drop points, which I think is good for the smaller sides. But the rest of the season, they're going to have their mindset on gaining that advantage back now. So the big teams are going to want to get points. So it's going to make it even more difficult for clubs like Wolves that know they should be in and around the top 6 or top 7, but it actually doing that and getting the results is a completely different thing. So there's a lot of pressure now on Wolves to try and get some results before we start playing some of the big boys, and we've got to try and get ourselves back up there.
Yeah. So what's the expectation going into this going into the season and so far? Because as I said, you do have a very good squad, and you did mention top six, top seven. Is it top six, top seven, or are you aiming a bit higher?
I think top 6, top 7 again for us. I think they just want to make sure we can get back into Europe in some capacity again. Obviously, we had the Europa League journey last season. I think at the start of last season, everyone would have been happy with a decent Europa League finish and sort of mid-table. The fact that we did so well in both competitions, really, we got ourselves to the last 8 in Europe and was sixth or top 6 for so long in the league and chucked 6th place away going into the last game of the season was really annoying. That frustrated quite a lot of Wolves fans. So I think this season is to try and get back into the top 6 or top 7, try and get ourselves back into Europe. But like I say, with the top teams already dropping points, it's going to be difficult, I think, because they're going to be much better than everybody else now for the rest of the season, I think. They may surprise me, but Wolves have got a bit of a task ahead of themselves if we want to achieve that top 7 again.
Looking at Palace from an opposition perspective, what do you make of this Palace squad, and where do you think we should be aimed to finish? Because around the Palace fan base, there's uncertainty. Some people are saying top 10, some people are saying let's just survive, some people are saying mid-table. As a Wolves fan, looking at this club, where do you think this Palace side should realistically be able to compete at?
So I'll try and say it without upsetting too many people.
No,
But I
say
don't think
what? Yeah.
I don't think Palace are one of the worst 3 sides in the league, for argument's sake. I don't think they're relegation fodder at all. I think Hodgson has done a very decent job. I mean, any manager that has got the England job, they must have done something correct or right in their career along the way. But I think he's done a really decent job at Palace. Yeah, him and obviously the board that managed to keep hold of Zaha, which I think is massive for Palace. In terms of some of the players they've got, I think a mid-table finish would be a good season for Palace fans. I don't think they've quite got that quality to break into the top 10, especially with the amount of money that's been spent on some of the teams in and around that at the moment. So I think Palace mid-table would be a very good finish for you guys, and the situation keeping Zaha I think has been massive over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think so. Zaha was also linked with you guys, I think, at some point. Even though with Zaha, I don't think it's as hard as keeping him nowadays because of how much we value him. I
Yeah.
don't really see any club coming in and actually paying £50 million for him. So I don't think it was a difficult job as people made it out to be because
Mm.
there wasn't any real interest there. But talking about some of your players, you got some quality players in the side. Raul Jimenez in front of goal, you give him the chance and you'll finish it. But some other players that you might want to pick up for this game that Palace should watch out for, apart from him.
Yeah, like you say, Jimenez has been great already this season. He scored about four or five goals already, which is a great start for him. Obviously, the obvious one is Adama Traore. A lot of people talk about him. I don't think he's not really broken into the first team yet this season. He started on the bench the last few games, so it'll be interesting to see if Nuno gives him the nod ahead of this game against Palace. Daniel Podence as well. We signed him in January. He didn't make a start until after lockdown, but it's done really, really well since then. So, and he had a pretty decent game against Newcastle. So I think he's another one to watch out for, really. All of our attacking players offer something, but it's just for Nuno now to pick which ones start the game. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me to see Adama come in and start because I think we've lacked a little bit of something going forward the last few games.
How comes he hasn't started? Because I remember last season, I feel like when we played you guys, it was a similar situation where he's coming off the bench. Is he not good enough to be a starter? Is he better off the bench? I mean, when we're looking at from outside, looking at Adama Traore, he's a fantastic player. He's got great, pace, great strength as well. So it's a bit odd.
Yeah, it's an interesting one with Adama. Like you say, on the ball, he's phenomenal. He's one of the quickest and best dribblers in the world, in my opinion.
Mm,
But the rest of his game needs so much work. There's some areas, like sometimes it's as if when he's not on the ball, it's as if he doesn't know where he is. It's really, really
mm,
strange. His work rate sort of off the ball is non-existent, really. The only way can think about it is Nuno wants a little bit of structure. Because the front three, Podence, Neto, and Jimenez, they know what they're doing. They'll run back and forth. They know exactly their positions. Whereas Adama, we tried him at right wing back at the start of the season when before we signed Semedo, and it was as if he didn't have a clue what was going on for half the game. And he always needs the ball at his feet. If he hasn't got the ball at his feet, he's not really a player that knows how his positioning's wrong or doesn't make the right runs. So I think that's what it is. I think that we try and play for 60 minutes or so with a bit of structure, and then for the last half an hour or so we let him on a bit like a headless chicken, just run where you want and try and pull the defences apart. So I think that's the one area Adama needs to improve on, just the mental side of the game, really thinking about where you should be, what runs you should do, and so on, really.
So Roy Hodgson versus Nuno. I mean, two different managers there. I know who I would have out my club, but it's going to be an interesting game tactically. But what can we expect from you, Wolves, going into this game? I was looking at your last couple of results, and you've only conceded one goal in the last 3 games and scored 3 goals. So it seems like you're solid defensively. So your face doesn't. You don't seem that. Yeah. What was
Nah,
that? You don't like it?
it's just Wolves at the moment. It's they know how to see out games basically. Defensively, Nuno. I've seen some comparisons with Simeone. Just last few games, he's just sort of had 11 men behind the ball. The Leeds game was a prime example, but that for me, it's hard as a fan. You've got to balance up. Are you happy with 3 points but playing quite dirty or quite boring? Or do you want to play really nice and attractive football but not always guarantee the points? So it's trying to get that balance, really. The last few years, championship season, the first year we came into the Prem, Wolves played some fantastic stuff. The last year or so, especially last year when Wolves were getting tired with Europe and so on, we started to see the team sort of play slower and slower and play even deeper. But the Leeds game, from the kickoff, we played with 11 men behind the ball, away from home, against a team that had been newly promoted. Although, Leeds have had an alright start, but Wolves fans just couldn't get their head around it. Second half, we came out a bit more and attacked them, and in the end, we did get a goal. And I thought that's a good win for Wolves, because Nuno's obviously gone in with a game plan to defend and then try and get them on the break and score a goal, and that's exactly what we did. So we got 3 points, which is great on the league table, but a lot of Wolves fans didn't really see the positives out of that game. Same in the Fulham game, although we didn't really park the bus. We went for it, but only managed to score 1 goal. So yeah, we grinded out results, but at the moment, I think fans want to see us scoring more goals. I know we've scored 3 and 3, and and only conceded 1 goal, but I think everybody knows, and you probably know as an outsider, the amount of money that Wolves have pumped into this squad. We're expecting to win games probably more comfortably overall.
Yeah, so how do you think that Palace should approach this game? Because we like sitting back as well. And if we're both sitting back, then I don't
Yeah,
know what's going to
well,
happen. But
against Newcastle, they sat back. Like they had little spells where they tried to counter, but that was it. But I saw a stat. For, I think the last maybe 12 or 13 games, whenever Wolves have had 60% or more of the ball, they've only won one game out of about 12 or 13 games. So when teams sit back, Wolves just do not know how to break them down. So if Palace are well organised and structured defensively, unless Nuno changes how we play or the style, then Palace have actually got a pretty good chance of getting something out of the game.
Oh, that's interesting. So is that only this season, or is that? I didn't realize that it was like that for Wolves.
I'd probably say it's been under Nuno, full stop, because the first year when we were in the Championship, the year Sunderland got relegated, we didn't beat them once. They parted the bus and we got 1 point against them. The year we came up to the Premier League, when Huddersfield finished bottom, they beat us twice, just parking the bus. So yeah, it's happened. Whenever teams almost park the bus against Wolves, they just really struggle to break them down. We found it. The only other time we've beaten a team was against Man City when they had 10 men for about 70 minutes. So yeah, other than that, it's been really, really tricky to break teams down and try and find a way to score goals against them.
All right, so finally, let's have your lineup and score prediction for the game.
Lineup, Patricio in goal. I think it'll be Kilman, Cody and Willy Bolly as our three centre-backs. Nelson Semedo as right wing-back. Left wing-back will be an interesting one. Romain Saiss has played their last few games, but he's more of a centre-back, to be honest. So it wouldn't surprise me to see him bring back Marçal, who's a Brazilian left wing-back, or possibly a young French lad we've brought in called Ait Nouri, could start for his first game. I'm assuming we'll play the same formation, so I'll go with Neves and Dendoncker in midfield, Jimenez up front. I'll stick with Podence and Neto as the wingers, but I could see Adama coming in. But score prediction, I always do this on my own channel, but it's a nice safe one. I'll go with a 2-1 Wolves win.
2-1 Wolves win. Well, I predict is 1-1, and I would take a point as well against Wolves just to keep the momentum going. But thank you for joining me, Dave. Make sure to check out Talk on Wolves channel. I'll put the link in the description down below so you guys can go and see their content. And until next time, up the Palace.